Welcome back to the channel. Today video is about our /best of Reddit stories. First story.
I've been getting freaky with my cousin and it feels so good. At the age of about 20, I was living the high life, and happy in every aspect of my life. Then, my cousin, a year and change younger than me, is moving into my parents' place for college. Shortly after finding this out, I lost my job. This cousin grated on my nerves when we were younger. Well, she's grown, all woman-like and whatnot. Mind you, I'd never had a girlfriend or anything. Never played the game or any of that jazz. She comes in and we start connecting in ways I'd never connected with someone before. She was close enough to my age that I had someone that I could almost relate to. I was ecstatic. Then I started to notice strange behavior from her. She would get closer to me, lean on me, touch me, etc. Could have been friendly. That started the gears turning, and in the wrong direction. That's when I noticed that she was actually quite unbelievably hot. Little body, pretty face. So how does it go from her casually coming onto me, to full-blown playing around with each other? We were watching a movie in her room. We were on a bed. She was complaining of a sore back. I offered a back massage, of course. I had done this for guys and girls alike, especially as an instructor dealing with people with back issues. I proceed to attempt to gently work out the knots, feeling her nice back through the flannel night shirt. She was a size A, so she didn't generally wear a bra to bed, so nothing to get in the way there. Then she asked if taking off her shirt would make things easier. My heart started pounding. I wasn't sure if I wanted to say yes because it really would make the job easier, or if I wanted to say yes because I wanted to see her beautiful back, and possibly chest. Regardless, I said yes. I start working her back a little bit nicer, and eventually move up to her neck. Knowing the key and sensitive nodes, I started working those that would affect her more intimately. It became too much work to handle the neck while she was resting on her chest, so I recommended she get up and sit in front of me. She did so, and I averted my eyes and handed her the shirt. At this point all my hormones are shooting off, and probably have adrenaline running through me. Anywho, she puts the shirt on and faces away from me. I continue to work on the neck. She started to move closer to me, leaning back further and further, until I realized that she didn't button up her shirt, and one breast was clearly hanging out. Heaven, she was practically laying on me at this time, and I, scared, but oh so curious, started reaching down further and further, stroking the top of her chest and neck, and finally making it to her beautiful breasts. So soft and supple, she was reeling in the ecstasy of getting touched. Things went downhill from there, and a semi-broken relationship that lasted about a year and a half ensued before she finally cheated on me, but we did a lot of mutual touching. She was my first real relationship, as much as that is, and to be honest she was kinda bad.
Next story.
My wife and her best friend accused me of having an affair, then got angry when I didn't have one. I 31 male and my wife 29 female had a baby last December. It was a traumatic birth and my wife developed postpartum depression. While she was originally going to go back to work after the birth, she's been struggling enough that we decided to wait until our daughter was a year old and reassess. She has been going to therapy weekly. With my wife home full time, I've had to work increased hours. This is something we discussed prior to making this decision and she knew this from the start. A few weeks ago, my boss approached me about a project that would require a lot of overtime in a short amount of time. It would both be great financially and for my career. I talked to my wife about it and she agreed that I should say yes to my boss. For the 4 weeks I'd be working on this, my mother-in-law and her best friend Jessie, 29 female, would come help out with some of the duties that I typically do. Jessie is a stay-at-home mom with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. She began coming over during the day and would watch the kids with my wife. 3 weeks into the project, it became clear that we'd need a few more weeks to get it together. I went home that night and talked to my wife about it. She said she was okay with it, but got very cold in the days after. It wasn't unusual behavior over the past few months, so I didn't think much about it and tried not to take it personally. During the last week of the project, I got home one night and saw that Jessie was still at the house. I didn't think much about it, said hi to her and my wife, and then went to go check on our daughter. Before I could get to her room, I heard Jessie say something along the lines of, "He doesn't even stop to greet you. Definitely a sign." I turned around and asked what it was a sign of. Immediately, my wife started crying and Jessie started accusing me of having an affair. She told me that I must hate my wife because she has postpartum depression and am not attracted to her because she gained weight from the pregnancy. Neither of these things are true. I'm trying my best to help my wife through her postpartum depression while supporting our family, and I think she looks great how she is right now. She just hasn't wanted to have sex and I haven't pushed. Jessie then demanded to see my phone. I told her no. She told me that's a sign that I'm guilty. I told my wife that I would let her see my phone if she wanted to. She nodded and something inside me broke. I guess it was the thought that she actually believed I was having an affair really got to me, and that she didn't trust me after everything we've been through. Well, she looked through the phone and there was no evidence. Jessie started saying that I deleted the evidence. She started screaming and woke up our daughter, so I told her to get out of the house. Eventually, she left and I went to calm our daughter since my wife was still on the couch crying. When my daughter was asleep again, I sat down by my wife and tried to talk to her about what's been happening. She told me that she's been worried ever since I started working all the overtime. I told her that we'd talked about how good of an opportunity it was and she agreed to letting me take on this project. She said it was very suspicious to increase the length of the project. I told her that sometimes that happens. She wanted more evidence, so I showed her messages and emails with timestamps from work and pay stubs showing the overtime. She said she believed me and was sorry for doubting me. It was just that Jessie had been telling her that these were all signs that I was cheating. I asked her why she believed Jessie more than me, and why she didn't come to me with her concerns. She didn't have a real answer. It's been a couple weeks and the project is over. I actually scaled back and am trying to work a little less than I was before the project so I can spend more time with my wife and daughter. But I feel so burnt out trying to do everything and becoming resentful because in the back of my mind, I know that my wife doesn't trust me. I ask myself, what happens the next time I have a project, or I have to run errands one day, or if I have a business trip, am I going to come back every time to accusations that I'm cheating? I've tried bringing it up a couple times but my wife tells me it's not the time and that she's tired or sad. I try to be mindful of her feelings but I wonder if that means that I can never have any of my own. I'm not sure what to do here. Any advice for how I can move forward? Update. That night I approached my wife and told her that I was going to find a therapist. I didn't connect it to her accusations or anything. Just said that I was having a tough time and needed therapy. She shrugged and told me to do whatever. Next day, I got home from work and our room and my home office were ripped apart. Things everywhere. Important papers scattered. I don't see her but our daughter's in her room crying. My wife left her alone. Her cell phone's off. I call my in-laws and a few friends, but no one's seen her. I'm starting to get worried and I call my mom to see if she can babysit while I go out and look for her. Before my mom can get home, my wife gets back. Jesse's driving. Jessie doesn't come in. She hasn't been back in the house since I kicked her out because she was offended by my behavior. But my wife does. She's clearly upset. Been crying. I ask what happened. I thought at first the house might have been robbed. She starts screaming at me that I'm being unfaithful and that the therapy is a front so I can meet my mistress. I try to calm her down and tell her that's not true, but she came at me and she whacked me. My nose is broken. She kind of realized what she did and sat down on the couch and went comatose. Just stared at the wall. I went into my daughter's room and locked the door, called my mom to tell her what happened. She was already on her way, and my mother-in-law to ask her to come over and take care of my wife. I packed a bag for my daughter and when my mom got there, we left. My wife didn't even look up. We dropped my daughter off with my dad and then went to urgent care for my nose. I got blood all over my mom's new Subaru. My daughter and I are staying with my parents for a while and my wife's staying with hers. I am looking into getting a restraining order against Jessie. My wife and I are separating. I love her but I won't live with someone who hurts me and who could potentially hurt our daughter. I am not going forward with a divorce yet, with the hopes that my wife will get the treatment she needs and we can work things out. My in-laws told me that they're looking at inpatient treatment at a local hospital, but I also have everything well documented in case of an eventual custody battle. My heart's broken because I know this isn't my wife, this is a sickness in her mind, but I need to keep myself and our daughter safe and give her the space to recover. I'm hoping that this is the right decision. Thanks again everyone. Update 2. Do I let the woman I fought with my wife's death let her speak at her funeral? My wife passed on early Monday morning, convinced by her friend Jessie that I was having an affair that I did not have. She had a mental break, which resulted in my taking our infant daughter and staying with my parents for a while. She was with her parents, who planned on taking her to the hospital for inpatient treatment on Monday. On Sunday night she came to my parents' house and demanded I give her our daughter. Because she had left her alone for several hours the last time she was responsible for her and had gotten physical with me, I refused. I offered to let her come in and spend time with her while my parents and I were present. But she didn't want to come in and wanted to take our daughter with her. She was upset but left eventually. A few hours later, she drove her parents' car into a tree and passed away. The friend, Jessie, came to see my daughter and me yesterday. After some tears, she told me that she was planning to speak at my wife's funeral. She had already cleared it with my in-laws but was letting me know as a courtesy. I told her she would not be speaking at the funeral. We fought and she left after telling me that I was an asshole and not the only person who loved my wife. I talked to my in-laws who are adamant that Jessie be allowed to speak. She and my wife knew each other since they were kids and my in-laws are close to her. We're all very fragile right now and I fear that pushing this further would hurt my relationship with my in-laws, which I don't want. Still, the thought of seeing Jessie up there at my wife's funeral makes me feel sick. I don't think I can stand to listen to her, knowing that she took joy in my wife's deteriorating mental health and picked up my wife, leaving my daughter home alone. That being said, I don't trust myself to make the best decisions right now. My mind's clouded by grief, guilt, and fear. My parents are split on what to do and I don't have the energy to reach out to my friends, so I'm coming here again to ask for your advice. Thank you.
Next story.
I found my girlfriend's Reddit post and I am heartbroken and angry. I met my GF at work a couple of years ago. It was her first day at her new job after finishing school. We work in the building industry. She is 5 feet 3 inches, has long dark hair, intense green eyes, a beautiful face and an amazing strong body. She's gorgeous is what I'm trying to say. I was instantly smitten as were multiple of my coworkers. She gets hit on a lot at work by guys that don't know her/us, and I walk around with a smirk on my face when I observe this, because sorry guys, I have no idea what I've done to deserve her, but she loves me. Fortunately she is easygoing and doesn't have a hard time brushing it off. Anyways, we started talking about life and I found out she owns a house and she is a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo. Dang, this girl is a badass. The only family she has left is her 81-year-old grandmother who lives with her. This spoke volumes to me. She is not only strong and responsible, she is also caring, loving and an amazing person. We had so much fun together while getting to know each other. I still remember how nervous I was about asking her out and how I was jumping from joy inside when she said yes. We took our time getting to know each other, but I started realizing that not everything was as perfect as it seemed in the beginning. She slowly started opening up about her past, how neglected she was as a child. Her father never wanted her and her mother and stepfather hated her. They beat her on a daily basis and tortured her regularly. She has several scars and burn marks on her body to this day. She was repeatedly locked in her bedroom for days, a few times for up to a week without food, water or access to a bathroom. She ran away from home many times even at a young age and got into trouble in so many ways. She started taking the bus on her own when she was 5 to her grandparents' house. It's a 5-hour drive. One time when she was 6, a bus driver wouldn't let her on the bus without her parents' consent, so she just wandered the streets until she fell asleep in a park. They never reported her missing and no one intervened. She has always done relatively well in school. This is just because she's smart as hell, and therefore the school never worried enough about her to intervene. She lost her V card when she was 12. He was the same age and was also a troubled kid. They grew up together and from my understanding they offered great support to each other. I don't blame them for going at it at this young age. Puberty is hard enough as it is. Imagine going through it with no support and guidance at all from the adults around you. I haven't gotten the whole story, but she was eventually forced to watch while a man unalived himself. He passed instantly. She was in a car accident a few years later that unalived her second boyfriend and almost unalived her. She had a lengthy recovery at a rehabilitation center out of town. Her mother didn't even visit her at the hospital or at the rehabilitation center. Because she was only 16, her grandfather had to take her back to her mother after. She wanted to stay with her grandparents, but her mother didn't allow it. I don't understand why. About 2 months ago I moved into her house. I was at her house 95% of the time anyways and it just felt right, so we went with it. Last week we were doing stuff around the house, settling in, but out of nowhere I came into the living room and found her sitting on the floor crying and I immediately saw the emotional pain she was in. I don't know how else to explain it. I had no idea what was going on or what to do, so I just let her cry it out while I held her. Eventually I looked around and there was a small open box with a lot of pictures in it. It looked old, so I realized she was crying about old trauma. I later, with her consent OFC, looked through the stack of pictures and for the first time I saw pictures of her at a young age. Adorable baby and childhood pictures of her and her friend who passed. Puppy love pictures from her preteen and teen years. She was just as beautiful back then as she is now. How could anyone hurt this tiny adorable baby and child? I don't get it. There is also a necklace in a Ziploc bag in the box. I saw it was broken but I really didn't pay it much more attention than that. Until I saw her post on Reddit today. I was scrolling on Reddit after work and somehow stumbled upon her post. She has a really hard time talking about her past, but her post defiantly included some therapy writing. As this rant is for me too. She explained the story behind the broken necklace and asked in the relationship advice subreddit if it is disrespectful to me if she keeps the pictures and the necklace. In between the lines I can sense some hesitation because of an a-hole, an ex that I didn't know about, who berated her for keeping the necklace and broke it many years ago. I am going to look into having it fixed tomorrow, but I don't know how realistic this is as it is broken pretty badly. I am heartbroken after reading her story. I am so angry. I am so frustrated. Why did no one help her out of her misery? How do people find it in themselves to hurt a child? Why do people feel threatened by dead people who when alive showed nothing but love? Why didn't I meet her many years ago so she wouldn't have to struggle as much for all these years? She was a baby. She was a child. Why? Just why? She is not home yet, but will be within a couple of hours. I have no idea what I'm going to say to her. But I know if I don't start crying again when she gives me her hello kiss like she always does, she will see that I have been crying like a baby for over an hour and either way I will have to explain myself. Wish me luck.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.